Good morning, everyone. As you can imagine, we're just giving everyone a minute or two to get into the Zoom before we start our webinar. Morning, everyone. We're just waiting for people to filter in, just giving everyone a chance, but we'll probably start in a minute or two. All right, I know that everyone has busy days, so maybe we'll get started. I want to start by welcoming everyone to this town hall hosted by the Department of Energy Resources. It's the first time that we are doing a town hall like this, and we're so excited to be able to share with you the work that DOER is engaging in this year and talk to you about how we can continue talking and working together throughout the year. My name is Elizabeth Mahoney. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Energy Resources. And today you're going to meet our wonderful senior leadership team who run all of our various departments. And they're going to talk to you about the work that their staff is doing. And we'll talk at the end and take questions and really engage with all of you about our work in 2024. Today's meeting is available in Spanish, Portuguese, Mandarin, Cantonese, Haitian Creole, and Vietnamese. To listen in one of these languages, click on the interpretation button shown as a globe icon on the menu at the bottom of your screen and select the appropriate language. You must select a language to hear the speaker. And I'm going to turn it over to our terrific interpretation team to share what I just explained in their language so everyone is on the same page.
Claudia, Spanish interpreter, I will proceed to do as it was just told, switching to Spanish now. Muy buenos días, gracias por estar aquí. Vamos a comenzar la interpretación en un par de segundos. Cuando ella comience, usted va a ver un icono de un globo o un mundo en la parte de abajo de la pantalla de Zoom. Va a hacer clic ahí y escoger el canal español. Si es una tableta o en un celular, lo encuentran los 3 puntos en la parte izquierda arriba de la pantalla. Muchas gracias. Thank you. Bert?
Boa tarde para todos. Aqui o intérprete de português, Bertolt Cantalice. Queremos informar que há interpretação disponível para todos os participantes. Para acessar a interpretação, é só clicar ali no globo, na parte inferior da tela, selecionar o português e vocês começarão a ouvir a interpretação em português. Muito obrigado.
大家好，我叫 Terry，我会是你们今天的国语翻译。待会你在屏幕下方会看到一个地球仪的图标，您点选地球仪的图标，然后再选择 Mandarin 就可以听到国语的频道了。如果你是用手机或者是平板电脑上来的话呢，您可以选择屏幕下方的3个点，然后再选择语言的功能，也可以听到国语的频道。好的，谢谢，待会见。好呢。
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting. I'll be a Cantonese interpreter for the meeting today, and I will explain to you how you can access Cantonese channel. 大家好，我係你今日嘅廣東話翻譯員。一陣間你見到地球嘅時候咧，撳落去揀廣東話嘅圖標就會去到廣東話嘅翻譯頻道噶啦。如果咧你用手機或者用平板電腦嘅話，撳下3個點，點，再揀更多，再揀廣東話，亦都會 Cantonese 亦都會去到廣東話翻譯頻道噶咯。唔該晒，一陣間見。Thank you.
Bienvenue, moi c'est Carly. Réunion aujourd'hui est disponible en créole, portugais, mandarin, cantonais, créole haïtien et victamin. Pour qu'écouter dans une langue ou t'étendez yo, faut cliquer sur le bouton interprétation qui est affiché sur une forme icône globe dans le menu qui est en bas écran et puis vous choisissez langue appropriée pour vous-même. Vous devez choisir une langue pour qu'attendez orateur. Bonsoir.
Did I count incorrectly, or are we missing one for Vietnamese?
This is the Vietnamese interpreter. Sorry, I was on mute. Good morning. This is the Vietnamese interpreter. Dạ, xin chào, đây là thông dịch tiếng Việt ha. Và cuộc họp hôm nay mình sẽ có bằng những cái ngôn ngữ sau đây: tiếng Tây Ban Nha, Bồ Đào Nha, Quang Thội, Quảng Đông, Haiti, Creole và tiếng Việt. Và để mình có thể nghe bằng những ngôn ngữ ở dưới đây á, thì mình hãy bấm vào cái nút phiên dịch. Nó được xuất hiện bằng cái biểu tượng quả cầu ở phía bên dưới của cái màn hình của các bạn, và bắt các bạn phải chọn cái ngôn ngữ thích hợp để các bạn có thể nghe cái ngôn ngữ của mình. Dạ, cảm ơn. Thank you.
Again, thank you all so much for being here. Hopefully you can see the globe icon now and can select the language that best suits your needs. As I said, this is the Department of Energy Resources first town hall. We're excited to be here and to be speaking with so many of you. You may have noticed when you joined that we are recording today's session. We're doing that so that we can post this webinar on our website, so those who couldn't attend today can listen in and hear about the work that we're doing at DOER. We're grateful for the opportunity to speak with all of you and also to really set up our collective work this year. We know that there's going to be a lot of conversations and a lot of excitement over the work we're doing. And we think that the best way to serve everyone is to spell out what we're doing and to really work with all of you on that, these efforts. So I'll start by saying that really our objective today is to be transparent in our planning, to call on all of you to share public comments with us on what we could be working on or what we should be prioritizing of the projects that we're going to share today. And ultimately, we really do want you all to work with us and participate through public engagement throughout the year. So at the end of this, we will be inviting public comments, and we look forward to both the question and answer session today and future engagement with all of you. So as you probably have seen, the chat function is disabled for this webinar, but please feel free to use the Q&A box to ask your questions. Now, our team may answer those questions live during and in writing during this webinar. We might get to those questions at the end of the day, but ultimately we want to make sure that we are communicating this information in some fashion. And again, we have reserved time for the end of the day. We've carefully constructed this day so that we are giving you all the information we can, but also reserving time for that question and answer time. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about what DOER does. DOER is a state agency that is housed under the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. So we work with our colleagues from the Department of Energy, the Department of Environmental Protection, with Agriculture, Fish and Game, and many others to try and work together on a climate and clean energy future that keeps in mind both the development of climate and clean energy measures, while also considering our natural lands and the use of our open spaces. So that's why we are housed under EEA. And DOER has a number of departments within our agency. You'll hear from almost all of them today. Many of you probably live in a green community, so you might know that your municipality receives grants and other work with DOER to improve your municipal buildings. That happens with green communities. Then we have our Leading by Example team, and they're the team that's really working across state agencies to make sure that we're not only talking about the work, but we're doing the work ourselves, and that we can show to the Commonwealth and to all of you how this is practical, at the same time trying to save energy costs for our state buildings and also reduce our greenhouse gas emissions at state and campus buildings. Then, of course, we have our Renewable and Alternative Energy Division. They help to work on solar programs, storage programs, and really building out all of the clean tech programs that DOER runs that many of our utilities must comply with. And these are the programs that help developers and individuals access clean energy technology. I think hopefully everyone knows about energy efficiency in the Commonwealth and how successful our programs have been. And a lot of that work is happening through our Energy Efficiency Division. And I'll say it's a little bit of a misnomer at this point. That division works on really all building decarbonization. So it's not just energy efficiency and reducing our energy load, but that team is also working to help decarbonize our buildings by switching to an all-electric future. They do a lot of work. And then finally, we have our Policy, Planning, and Analysis Division. They are working to blend all of these divisions together and advance the policy objectives of the Healey-Driscoll administration in many forms. This is also the team that's leading the charge on offshore wind procurement. They are advocating at the Department of Public Utilities on the design of electric and gas rates. So they're really looking out for you and seeing how we can blend our work together with affordable rates for our electric and gas customers. And they do much more that you'll hear about later. And then, of course, we're supported. We would be nowhere without our legal and finance teams. We have a strong engagement team, which hopefully you're experiencing today. We do work on energy security matters, and we work with many of our colleagues around the state to make sure that we have secure energy sources. And then, as you can imagine, with the Biden-Harris administration's priorities on federal funding for clean energy and clean tech, we do have a federal funding team that's going after every federal dollar that we can so we can deliver results in the Commonwealth. So that's our structure and many of our teams that you're going to learn about today. I'll just turn a little bit to our policy goals for 2024. We are working hard, and it's the end of February. I can't believe it. We did get this one extra day, of course, to do this work. So that's helpful. We need it this year. But we have aggressive goals this year, and they're focused in a number of areas. We are making sure that we're implementing our policy and regulations efficiently. We want to make sure that when we have funding, either from the federal government or from other sources like RGGI or the RPS program, that we're dispersing that in an equitable manner and an efficient way so that we actually make projects happen in the Commonwealth. We also do a fair amount of data collection and sharing. We have a website that shows the price of oil during the winter. We put up a lot of information about rates and the build out of solar and storage. So we collect a lot of data, and we're going to actually launch some new programs to collect more data so that we can know what's working and how to improve our programs. We, just like today, we engage with communities and stakeholders. That is a big focus of the EEA and the Healy-Driscoll administration this year. So DOER is helping to lead the charge. We want to make sure that we are communicating in a way that helps all of you understand the intricacies of clean energy. It's not always easy to talk about these topics. It's a very complicated world we live in. And we're hoping to break down some of those barriers and misunderstandings. And we're also really focusing on language access this year, which is why we have interpretation services and why we are committed to translating our documents on our website throughout the year. Of course, we work with our utilities on many of our programs and pushing them to do more and to do it in a better way. Those are ongoing discussions. As I noted, we work with all of our sister state agencies on a number of projects. We, of course, always like to take a step back and develop our strategic policy, how all of these pieces come together and how we can work with our colleagues, both in state government and outside, to advance our goals. And then, of course, part of what we're here today is that we want to empower DOER to do more and to work with all of you to accomplish more. This year is about implementing programs and sticking to some timelines. So we have big goals this year, but we know that the team here at DOER is well suited to do this. We have an amazing dedicated staff that really wants to do right by the Commonwealth. So again, that's just the highlights of our goals. And then I'll just give you a little bit, well, I'm going to turn it over to Susanna Hatch, but I just want you to know that what we're talking about today is our planning. This is our 2024 planning to implement these goals. And we're really excited to talk about it with you all today. So let me turn it over to DOER Chief of Staff, Susanna Hatch.
Thank you, Commissioner. And thank you all for being here today. As the Commissioner mentioned, the focus of this town hall is to look ahead and to discuss DOER's plans for 2024 and how all of you can engage in those plans. But before I turn the microphone over to the people that will dig deeper into those plans, it's always important to take a few minutes to celebrate what we have achieved. This slide shows a list of some of DOER's key accomplishments in 2023 since the start of the Healy-Driscoll administration. On the building side, the residential stretch code update took effect in nearly 300 communities across Massachusetts, which will improve the energy performance of most new homes and major renovations. And 31 communities across the Commonwealth adopted the specialized stretch code in its first year. We're now up to 32. This opt-in code is an ambitious, higher-tier code that includes a net zero building definition. And in February, DOER launched its new $50 million Affordable Housing Deep Energy Retrofit Grant Program and announced the awards of over $27 million to 10 affordable housing projects across Massachusetts in November. On the transportation side, the Leading by Example division built out More EV, the Commonwealth's electric vehicle rebate program, with new program offerings, including rebates at the point of sale for used electric vehicles, for income qualified customers, and for trading in a gasoline or diesel vehicle. With this expansion, DOER issued over 9,000 rebates, totaling nearly $32 million in incentives in 2023. The Leading by Example division also awarded over $1 million to 10 state agencies and public colleges to support the deployment of electric vehicle charging stations. And the Green Communities division awarded over $11.6 million in grants to municipalities and regional planning agencies to support local clean energy projects and planning assistance. On the federal funding side, DOER developed and implemented cross-divisional tracking to identify opportunities and support our policies and priorities. This resulted in a multi-state application to the Hydrogen Hub and multi-developer applications to the Grid Innovation Program, among many others. In its role as chair of the new Grid Modernization Advisory Council, otherwise referred to as the GMAC, DOER kicked off the council in March and into high gear to review and provide recommendations on the utilities' electric sector modernization plans before the end of the year. This new process will ultimately promote proactive planning of the electric grid to support decarbonization. DOER's Renewables Division conducted a technical potential of solar study to quantify the potential for solar installations across the Commonwealth. This study found that Massachusetts has about 150 gigawatts of technical potential for solar that is highly suitable based on land use development and environmental considerations. For reference, our Clean Energy and Climate Plan found that Massachusetts would need around 30 gigawatts to reach net zero. And in partnership with the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, our Renewables Division conducted the Charging Forward Energy Storage Study, which found that the deployment and use of energy storage systems is a critical and cost-effective strategy for the Commonwealth to meet its 2050 climate goals. DOER also published a report with recommendations about storage deployment, including a commitment of $50 million for 3 new grant programs, which we'll be launching this year. And last but not least, DOER coordinated with our counterparts in Rhode Island and Connecticut to create a first-of-its-kind agreement and process for a potential multi-state coordinated selection of offshore wind projects. The 3 states could select up to 6,800 megawatts of offshore wind in 2024, which would be enough renewable energy to power nearly 3.5 million homes. This multi-state collaboration will foster regional economic development, create high-paying jobs, and promote environmental justice and equity. So as you can see, DOER accomplished a lot in 2023, and we look forward to partnering with all of you to accomplish even more in 2024. To start off the deeper dives into our plans for this year, I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Commissioner, Joanna Troy, to discuss our federal funding coordination and energy security work planned for this year.
Thank you so much, Susanna. And I was just trying to type out a response to a question in the chat about some federal funding. So sorry that I'm in the middle of that question. I will try to also answer it live here. So DOER has had a very productive and successful year last year. And that really is due to the great staff that we have in each of our divisions. But to help coordinate that work across divisions, we do have a cross-divisional team that focuses on external engagement, but also internal engagement across the divisions. And we focus on energy security, energy resilience, in coordination with our other New England states and our regional partners. And we support the DOER staff in securing and complying with the federal funding opportunities. So as many of you know, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, also known as IIJA, which is also known as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, or the bill, was signed into law in November of 2021. This law provides billions of dollars to the states, to local governments, to energy providers, and it really looks to modernize the distribution system and build out new electric transmission. It's looking to expand electric vehicle charging infrastructure, to advance building energy efficiency, which we'll hear a lot about today, and many other important energy actions. In addition to IIJA, we also have the Inflation Reduction Act, which was signed into law in August of 2022. And that act was actually the single largest investment in climate and energy in Americans' history. And that is mostly through tax credits and loan financing. So you'll hear about many of these opportunities coming throughout this year as we go through all the different divisions' work on the town hall today. Because of the scale of these 2 opportunities, these 2 new pieces of federal legislation, the Healey-Driscoll administration added the 2 new offices into the governor's office. That is the Federal Funds and Infrastructure Office. and also the Office of Climate Innovation and Resilience. Those two offices support the work of DOER and the many other departments that are impacted by these two bills. So it is really important that as Massachusetts invests in all of this clean energy infrastructure, that it becomes even more important that our energy systems remain secure and resilient to our changing climate. So DOER recently updated our state energy security plan, which is a document that contains a risk assessment of our energy infrastructure, a risk mitigation approach to enhance reliability, and outlines multi-state and regional coordination, planning, and response. So that is an internal document that we really utilize to coordinate across the many different aspects of not only the energy system, but also the government. Our team is also going to focus this year on how DOER engages with the businesses and residents in the Commonwealth. So we're hopefully going to see a lot of improvements, not just with this town hall, but in the future with how we are publishing and communicating the work of DOER. So we move on to the next slide. Thank you. All right, so upcoming key projects for our team. So we are updating the Comprehensive Energy Plan, which often we call the CEP, and our annual report. Those two documents we're really hoping are going to facilitate the public understanding of the web of plans and planning processes that contribute to our energy structures. We recognize that the energy system is very complex, and engaging with the energy system planning processes can be very complex. There's going to be a number of upcoming federal funding opportunities this spring, including the HER Here program, which is often called the IRA energy rebates, and that was the question that I was answering in the chat, but I see the commissioner has dropped in an answer as well. We are very close to submitting our application. In order to submit the application, we really want to have a public engagement or public input session, and that is going to be on March 18th. There's a link here in this orange box here for you to attend that session once we have these slides posting. And you'll hear more about the actual design of that program from our EE program division today. DOER is working with our Secretariat, EEA, as the commissioner outlined, the other New England states through the New England States Transmission Initiative to explore opportunities to secure federal funding for transmission development in New England. And one example of these opportunities is the Grid Innovation Program, or GIP. So we did have a call for an invitation for developers to submit concept papers to us, and the GIP applications are due this spring, and we expect that DOE would announce any of their awards this fall. So as I mentioned before, DOER will be improving how we engage with our stakeholders. And one of that will be that we are seeking technical support to develop new engagement tools for us. And that's what we're calling that External Engagement Improvements Project. So please join us on March 18th to hear about the HER Here program. As we develop new federal funding opportunities, we will announce other public input sessions there. And with that, I will turn it over to our Green Communities team, which is headed by Joanne Becerra.
Thank you, Joanna. And good afternoon. It's 12 noon exactly, so I can say good afternoon. My name is Joanne Becerra, and I'm the director of the Green Communities Division here at DOER. And our division was created by the 2008 Green Communities Act, and our statutory mission, if you will, is to assist municipalities and other local government bodies to reduce energy consumption, reduce pollution, and facilitate the development of renewable and alternative energy. So that's sort of our reason for being. Our team provides technical and financial assistance to municipalities in a variety of ways. And this includes our hallmark Green Communities Designation and Grant Program. For those of you not familiar with Green Communities, it's essentially a voluntary program that municipalities can choose to participate in by adopting clean energy policies and goals and other requirements. And once they become a designated green community, they're eligible for grant funding to implement energy efficiency projects on their town and school facilities. There are now 291 green communities, and it's likely that you reside in one since 89% of the state's population lives in a green community. That being said, we do provide technical assistance to any municipality or any local government body, which would include water districts, wastewater districts, regional school districts. And these are technical assistance grants to help these entities hire a expert, a technical advisor, an engineer that can study or analyze a potential clean energy project to see if it's feasible and then help it move forward to the next stage, perhaps to seek grant funding to implement it. Unlike other divisions at DOER, we have 4 regional coordinators located throughout the state that act as the point of contact with the municipalities and energy committees to us. The regional coordinators are largely responsible for the huge success of our program, and they're a key part of how we do our business. We have several goals for 2024, and as you'll continue to hear today, the state has really pivoted towards increasing decarbonization and electrification efforts throughout the Commonwealth and has established very ambitious goals related to that. And so we're pivoting our program to reflect that. We also provide tools and resources to help communities where they are. So perhaps they're not quite ready for decarbonization, but there's a lot of efficiency projects that they can implement. We're also going to implement new features in our online tool called Mass Energy Insight. And for those of you not familiar with that, Mass Energy Insight is an online energy benchmarking and tracking tool that we provide free to cities and towns that allows them to automatically get the data download into their building accounts and track their energy use. So in 2023, we made many improvements to this and will continue to do so to make it more user-friendly and adding an emission tracking and forecasting module, which we're very excited about. We're also excited about creating a higher tier of green communities that we're calling climate leader communities. This program builds on the success of green communities by supporting cities and towns to embark on more ambitious goals related to emissions reductions in correspondence with the Commonwealth's net zero goal of 2050. We also plan to host our first Green Community Summit later this year, which we're it's been on my to-do list for a very long time, so I'm glad to see we're going to get to it. And then finally, another long overdue task has been developing a model bylaw for battery energy storage systems. Next slide, please. There we go. In addition to all that, we will be implementing the 10 community fossil fuel-free demonstration pilot, which prohibits new construction and major renovation of buildings in the participating communities that are not connected to fossil fuels. This pilot will evaluate the impact of the prohibition on this and on emissions reductions, utility bills, housing production, and other factors. The Green Communities team will also be administering other federal grants that Joanna had mentioned. One of them is the Energy Efficiency Conservation Block Grant, otherwise known as EECBG. And we're tasked with awarding sub-grants to municipalities with populations under 35,000. And we'll also be implementing or administering another grant to school districts related to electrifying kitchen equipment. Regarding stretch and energy building codes, something the commissioner touched on earlier in the conversation. Our team is on the front lines of helping cities and towns adopt these specialized energy codes, as well as the stretch codes, both of which are required to participate in our Climate Leader program and our Green Communities program. There were a lot of changes, and municipal staff and volunteers are very eager to increase their understanding of them. And that's something that our regional coordinators are helping them with. We're also working with our colleagues at the Mass Clean Energy Center on an on-street electric vehicle charging initiative. This is to create a pilot program to help those electric vehicle owners that have no place to charge due to lack of a driveway or a garage. And so this is something we're excited about working on and deploying. And then lastly, related to Mass Energy Insight, we're also leveraging some tools made available by the U.S. Department of Energy to target low-performing facilities and prioritizing potential energy conservation and decarbonization actions. As you can see on the left, we have several deadlines and timelines and opportunities for public engagement. I won't go through all of them, but essentially we offer 2 rounds of Green Communities designation deadlines, one in the spring and one at the end of the winter. And with the Climate Leader program, we intend to have a deadline of summer for the first batch, and then a second deadline at the end of the year as well. We also offer competitive grants twice a year. And then regarding public engagement, again, our regional coordinators are out in the communities talking to volunteers, city councils, select boards, et cetera, in meetings, in public forums. So that's our unstructured public engagement. But in terms of structured public engagement, we intend to hold office hours for cities and towns and others who are interested in learning more about the Climate Leader program. Other public engagement includes getting feedback from stakeholders on the draft battery energy storage bylaw. And then finally, our Green Community Summit, which we intend to hold in the fall, where we will be celebrating the newest additions to the Green Communities family, announce the first group of Climate Leader communities, recognize the achievement of communities and individuals, and much, much more. So stay tuned. And with that, I'm going to hand the podium over to my colleague, Eric Friedman.
Thanks, Joanne. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm not sure you can see me. Can you guys hear me?
You're all good.
Okay, great. All right, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Friedman, and I am the director of the Leading by Example division at DOER. Leading by Example, or LBE, is responsible for overseeing the development of policies and implementation of programs and projects that will support state government in meeting its climate commitments and goals that are outlined in Executive Order 594. To do this, we work collaboratively with many executive branch agencies, our 29 public colleges and universities, and a number of quasi-public authorities to decarbonize our buildings and our fleets. LBE also oversees the Commonwealth's Electric Vehicle Incentive Program, affectionately known as MORE EV, which provides incentives for a variety of battery electric vehicles, including new and used vehicles, as well as additional rebates for income qualified customers. Our goals for 2024 include a focus on accelerating the decarbonization and electrification of our state buildings and fleets, as well as continuing our efforts to increase access to electric vehicles among income-restricted residents. More specifically, we tend to work closely with our colleagues in various agencies to make sure that electric vehicle charging stations are being installed across a wide range of state facilities that will help to prepare for the rapid conversion to electric vehicles. Simultaneously, we will be working with state fleets to ensure that they develop concrete plans that will guide their EV transition through 2030, including a new focus on medium-duty vehicles. We will continue to help agencies navigate building decarbonization strategies by providing technical and financial assistance, and work with our construction agencies to implement recently developed embodied carbon strategies into the design and construction of our roadways and buildings. To support all these efforts, we will also make sure to clarify and facilitate access to federal tax credits that have recently become available to non-taxable entities like state agencies and municipalities. On the more EV side, our 2024 goals include expanding our outreach efforts through our culturally competent outreach program to bring access to EVs to a broader group of income qualified individuals. We will also look to revamp our incentives for electric, medium, and heavy duty vehicles to try and substantially increase the number of those types of EVs on the road. Next slide, please. To achieve some of these objectives, we will be launching specific grant programs for state government entities that support the installation of EV charging stations, the decarbonization of our buildings, and the installation of solar PV canopies that are coupled with EV charging stations. We will work with our utilities, the Mass Clean Energy Center, and our own staff to provide the technical and planning resources to support fleet electrification planning for every state fleet covering some 10,000 vehicles. And we will continue to track and publicly report on state government progress toward our goals. On the more EV front, we are in the process of conducting a full program analysis to determine the impact of different incentive models that will help us to develop multi-year budget projections and identify funding options. And in the very near future, we will be submitting a grant application to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency for funding to support a completely revamped incentive program for medium and heavy-duty electric vehicles. If funding is awarded, this program would help to jumpstart the replacement of these diesel vehicles with a priority on placing them in low-income and disadvantaged communities. Many of these programs will be launched between March and June of this year, with immediate implementation happening during the rest of the year. Thank you for your time, and with that, I will turn the mic over to my colleague, Samantha Meserve.
Thanks, Eric. Hi, everyone. My name is Samantha Meserve, and I'm the director of the Renewable and Alternative Energy Division. I'm really excited about the opportunity today to share broadly what our team is working on. The Renewable and Alternative Energy Division is primarily focused on helping to deploy renewable energy across the Commonwealth, and we typically do this through a suite of incentive programs, including the Solar Massachusetts Renewable Target, commonly referred to as SMART, which focuses on solar energy for residential, commercial, and industrial practices. The Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, or RPS, whose main objective is to incentivize and track renewable electric energy. The Alternative Energy Portfolio Standard, or APS, who focuses on incentivizing technologies that help reduce fossil fuel consumption, such as renewable thermal. The Clean Peak Energy Portfolio Standard, or CPS, which is a novel approach to a portfolio standard, and instead of incentivizing a specific type of technology, incentivizes the time of dispatch, working towards reducing our peak electric load. And lastly, the Greenhouse Gas Emission Standard, or GGES, which will work to assist municipal light plants in their emissions reductions. Our goals for 2024 are focused on two main areas: to improve the incentive programs we already have, and develop new incentive programs to fill key holes in the renewable energy market. As our team works to evaluate and develop programs, our core missions are to ensure the funds coming from ratepayers to support our programs are being used efficiently, equitably, and in harmony with other programs within DOER and across the Commonwealth. We know historically that low and moderate income participation in our programs has not been where we would like it to be, and it is critical that we begin to modify our programs to provide easier access to our underserved populations, and particularly our environmental justice populations. In order to provide easier access to our programs, we must focus on streamlining and simplifying our eligibility criteria, application processes, and ongoing reporting, as we know these can be major barriers, not just to our LMI stakeholders, but to all who participate in our programs. And additionally, we need to ensure our consumer protection practices are ironclad to protect ratepayers participating in our programs. And we can move on to the next slide, please. In order to achieve all I've mentioned so far, we have several big initiatives coming this year that I'm excited to talk about. In order to improve our existing programs, both the SMART program and the CPS program will be reviewed, likely leading to significant improvements. The SMART program review will result in a straw proposal this summer with ample opportunity for stakeholder feedback. The CPS program review will officially kick off this spring with the release of a series of stakeholder questions aimed at providing feedback to DOER in order to begin developing program improvements. Additionally, the RPS program will receive a new application and compliance portal developed this year. The portal will create an improved process for those applying to the RPS program, while also creating a new sophisticated portal for retail electric suppliers to submit their annual compliance filings. The portal will be developed to improve data management within the program and the quality of the data coming out of the program. While we work to improve our existing programs this year, we'll also work to roll out several new and exciting programs. The Low Income Services Solar Program, also referred to as LISP, was established by the legislature and funded with $650,000. DOER intends to contribute an additional $5 million to the program in order to maximize our impact. The program will focus on providing funds for solar development to nonprofits servicing low-income populations or nonprofits located in environmental justice populations. DOER expects to begin accepting applications for LISP later this summer. Solar for All is a federally funded opportunity provided by the Environmental Protection Agency aimed at providing funds to states, municipalities, and tribes to support solar for low-income and disadvantaged communities. DOER was the lead on Massachusetts Coalition's application, applying for the maximum award of $250 million. DOER expects to hear if we are granted an award in late March and is already working behind the scenes to be able to roll out a program as soon as an award is granted. DOER has recently committed to rolling out a $50 million grant program for energy storage. We've collected an initial round of stakeholder feedback on that grant program and anticipate releasing a straw proposal for additional feedback later this summer. Lastly, DOER is in the early stages of developing a roadmap for hydrogen energy to set the path forward for hydrogen in Massachusetts' energy future. The roadmap is being developed with the help of an advisory group of stakeholders and is expected to be released later this year.
The Spanish interpreter is asking that you slow down.
Oh, thank you, Joe. The Renewable and Alternative Energy Division has a lot on our plate this year, but we couldn't be more excited for this work. We look forward to engaging with our stakeholders on a wide array of exciting topics. And I'll now pass the mic over to Joe and our Energy Efficiency Division.
Hello, everyone. My name is Joanne Bodemer. I'm the Director of Energy Efficiency here at DOER. As Commissioner Mahoney noted earlier, do not let our name mislead you. The Energy Efficiency Division is more than just mass save. We touch most everything related to building decarbonization. In addition to our role as chair of the Energy Efficiency Advisory Council and in development of the 3-year energy efficiency plans, we also lead the development of the state's building and energy codes. Related to our code work, we work to ensure compliance with Massachusetts Environmental Policy Act, or MEPA. Our division is leading the implementation of the recently enacted Building Energy Reporting Law, which requires energy use reporting from buildings over 20,000 square feet. We are also involved in the development of appliance standards at the state and federal levels. We work closely with our other state agencies to maximize building decarbonization opportunities for the Commonwealth through our policies, programs, and initiatives. One thing though, all of our work is tied together with the common objective to provide for the equitable transition to a clean energy future for all in the Commonwealth, and to center this transition around participation by our most vulnerable residents. This objective is expressed differently depending on the work we are doing, but it is always at the core of our decisions. Next slide. So what are we planning for 2024? I'm going to take a few minutes to just touch on a few things. First, we will continue our work with the program administrators of the Mass Save program in the development of the 2025 to 2027 three-year energy efficiency plan. As part of that process, we look to stakeholders and members of the public to provide input. DOER will be hosting public input sessions on the new plan in April, May, and June. The draft plan will be filed by the program administrators on April 1st, and we encourage all members of the public to share their thoughts on the plan. Second, we will be bringing the Building Energy Reporting Statute to life by promulgating regulations and developing a database and system to receive, store, and maintain the reported data. In this process, we will be providing an opportunity for the public input on draft regulations over the summer. And related to our building work, we will be proposing several changes to our building codes, which include, among other things, a change that will provide a pathway for users of district energy systems that are transitioning to all heat pump steam or hot water production to comply with the heat pump readiness requirement of the mixed fuel pathway while the district energy system is undergoing this transition. DOER will be seeking public input on these proposed changes in the spring this year. Third, we will be launching and delivering enriched energy efficiency programs to the Merrimack communities of Andover, North Andover, and Lawrence, using settlement funds from Columbia Gas relating to the gas explosion, and to leverage other efficiency funding to support residents, businesses, and businesses' adoption of clean energy technologies. Our work here is guided and informed by ongoing input from a stakeholder advisory group consisting of representatives from each of these communities and in collaboration with the Office of the Attorney General. Fourth, we will be connecting federal FER and HERE energy efficiency funding to support municipal light plant and mass save delivery of decarbonization and energy efficiency programs. As part of this program development, we will be holding, as mentioned earlier, an input session on March 18th to seek input on our proposed program design. Lastly, we will continue to administer our Affordable Housing Decarbonization Grant Program, which supports deep energy retrofits of affordable housing across the state. We really do so much more, but I need to be mindful of our time, and I'm going to turn the mic over to DOER's Director of Policy and Planning, Marian Harkavy.
Thanks, Joe. Hello, everyone. My name is Marian Harkavy. I'm the Director of Policy, Planning, and Analysis at DOER, and my team leads our work related to energy infrastructure, supply, and rates. And for today, I am also the last presentation before Q&A, so we're almost there. This slide has three of my team's key goals for 2024. First, we are participating in several projects that are related to encouraging our utilities in Massachusetts to make necessary investments in the electric grid that will support electrification and the transition beyond natural gas. The transition to these electrified technologies like heat pumps and electric vehicles is going to require big changes to the way our utilities plan for and invest in their electric and gas systems. And our team is involved in several projects where we are reviewing the utilities' plans and providing recommendations for changes to ensure that those investments align with our ambitious clean energy goals. Next, our team is working on projects to secure clean energy supply resources to meet demand for electricity and to reduce emissions. So we know we will need a lot of clean energy resources like offshore wind to meet electric demand in the coming decades. And our team leads our work on offshore wind energy procurements and other projects to ensure that we have adequate clean power supply in the region. Finally, our team is involved in work to design electric rates that will promote energy affordability while also encouraging residents and businesses to adopt new technologies like heat pumps and electric vehicles. So tools like time varying rates and other innovative rate designs can help us incentivize electrification, reduce the need to invest in new infrastructure, and ensure bills are affordable for residents. Next slide, please. So this slide lists 4 of our key projects for 2024 and also highlights in the 2 boxes some of the opportunities for public input and some of the timelines. So first, our team is in the thick of it now, working on the electric sector modernization plans. These are major new plans from the electric utilities in Massachusetts that outline their 5-year plans to invest in the electric grid to meet clean energy goals. Our team is reviewing these plans in detail and providing recommendations to the Department of Public Utilities, which is our regulatory agency, to ensure that these plans are transparent, that they incorporate stakeholder input, and that they align with our mandatory statewide emissions limits. The Department of Public Utilities is hosting public hearings on these plans in a couple weeks in early March, and we expect a final order from the department by the end of August. Next, our team is preparing to receive bids in our 4th competitive offshore wind solicitation. We refer to this by the name of the statute, Section 83C. We are very excited to be collaborating with our state partners in Connecticut and Rhode Island, who are running simultaneous solicitations, since this would allow us to make a joint selection of an offshore wind project if we find that it would offer the greatest benefits for Massachusetts. We will be receiving bids from offshore wind developers at the end of March, and we will be aiming to select a project or projects by August 7th. We will therefore be spending this spring and summer evaluating the bids received to determine which projects could offer the greatest benefit. Next, our team is helping to coordinate an interagency rates working group with state agency partners, including the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, and the Attorney General's Office. This group is going to be working with a consultant to develop both a short-term and a long-term study on rate design that can support electrification and advance energy affordability. The group is planning to hold stakeholder sessions to gather input for these studies this spring and summer. The dates for those have not yet been announced, but there is a link on this slide where you can sign up to receive notifications. And lastly, our team is going to be working with the state's electric and gas utilities to ensure they are coordinating on strategies to transition customers off natural gas service and onto electricity in a way that minimizes costs for all ratepayers. This builds on direction from recent regulatory orders about the future beyond natural gas, and also on goals that are outlined in the electric sector modernization plans that I mentioned earlier. We know we will need careful coordination between gas and electric utilities to ensure a smooth and efficient energy transition, and we look forward to having DOER play a leading role in this coordination effort. So thank you for your attention. I will hand it back to Susanna.
Thank you, Marian, and thank you all for sticking with us. We are now at our Q&A portion of the agenda. We have just shy of 30 minutes for questions, and we'll try to get to as many of them as possible. We are, I will note, seeking written comments after the town hall. So if you have comments, please make sure to submit comments after the town hall. But if you have any questions that we can help answer, please either add it to the Q&A box, or if you prefer to ask your question verbally, please raise your hand and I will unmute you. If you are in a room with an interpreter and want to ask a question, please type it in the Q&A box so that it can be interpreted. I will start with a question in the Q&A from Meg Sheehan. How is DOER working to ensure appropriate siting of renewable energy projects to protect critical habitat?
Thanks, Susanna. I think we're doing a lot of work to strike the correct balance between energy infrastructure and land use. We completed a technical potential of solar study last year. That was a great initiative to help us identify where more preferred locations for solar are. In addition, as we go through this smart programmatic review, land use will be one of the main topics of discussion. We work really closely with our sister agencies and rely heavily on feedback from the Department of Conservation and Recreation, the Department of Agricultural Resources, and the Department of Environmental Protection, as well as all of our stakeholders.
And if I can jump in, I saw, this has been great so far. Hopefully you all are getting a lot out of it. I think we're having fun reading through the questions and trying to answer them in real time. I saw a lot of questions about land use and what DOER is doing to help protect our natural and working lands and core habitats. We're one agency, but we are working, as Samantha noted, with our sister agencies to make sure that our programs all align and that we're working in the same direction. I think I also point out the obvious that we have a terrific climate chief now. We have a secretary of EEA, and we have many others that are all working together to make sure that our programs are balancing all of these needs. And so DOER, you just heard Samantha use the example of solar, but we have other programs that we need to really be thinking about this and considering it. And so the technical potential study was one piece of a very large puzzle that we're working together on. And we appreciate all of the questions and comments in the Q&A that we will take back and work with our colleagues across state government to make sure we are protecting the Commonwealth.
Thank you. And now I'm going to move to someone who has their hand raised. Anne, wait, I'm going to allow you to talk and unmute you. And when I do, please introduce yourself and please keep your question brief if you can and respectful so that we can get to as many as we can. Oh, it looks like Anne has unmuted herself. So, or lowered her hand. So I will move to Tina Grosowski.
Thank you very much. I'm Tina Grosowski. I live in at Hudson, Mass. I'm a member of Elders Climate Action. I really congratulate all of you from the top down for having this webinar today and to increase your transparency on what you are doing in the department across all sectors. And to that end, I did see from EEA that there was going to be a media communications campaign on clean energy, and wondered if you are coordinating that with them and with the Mass CEC, and when can we expect that to be rolled out in the state? Thank you.
Well, hello, Tina. This is 2 days in a row we're talking. Glad that you glad you joined today. I will confess that I have a communications degree. So what you're raising is, part of why we're having this meeting today. And it's really a building block for coordinating with EEA's efforts, with the CEC's efforts, and with internal goals that we have to increase more engagement throughout all of our processes. I'll note, DOER is good at posting slide decks. We are great at having stakeholder comments. We want to take that to the next level, and we want to be able to have a little bit of an educational element and a, for lack of a better word, a marketing effort to talk to the Commonwealth, all of our residents, about what we're doing and why it's so important. So we are working with EEA to make sure that our efforts align with them. With respect to your question on timing, I don't have an answer for you because I can only talk to our timing, but so I don't know when EEA plans to launch it. I just know that they are feverishly working on the program, and timing for us, we're at the start of our process. So we really do want to layer in and not duplicate efforts with EEA and the CEC. So we're going to issue an RFP actually to hire some folks to help us. We're looking to bring on new staff and maybe even, fingers crossed, a fellow paid for by the DOE to help us with these efforts and really supplement the work that many on our team, faces that you didn't hear from today, like our outstanding external affairs manager, Lauren Diggin, to really build on the work that they already do and do a better job for all of you. So I'm glad to hear, Tina, you know about these efforts and that we are working in concert across all agencies to make it work.
No, that's really great. And if you'd like to have a meeting of stakeholders from climate advocacy organizations, I think that would be a great idea. And they could help you in your distribution of information to the communities. Thank you.
Great suggestion. Thanks.
I'm going to turn it to Joanna to.
Wonderful. So I think maybe the next best question is a question in the chat about municipal aggregation and what is the current work that is going on to increase the speed at which these programs are reviewed by the Department of Public Utilities. And I think I will throw that off to Marian Harkavy.
Great, happy to. So as many of our municipal stakeholders well know, it is the Department of Public Utilities and not DOER who actually approves aggregation plans. But DOER has been active in a new process that the DPU is leading to revise their municipal aggregation guidelines. So I think DPU has framed this as a reset on how they are approaching aggregation. I think they really want to be responding to and listening to the concerns they've heard from municipalities trying to aggregate. So that has been an active process where the DPU is engaging with aggregation consultants, cities and towns, DOER, the Attorney General's office, and other key stakeholders to revise the guidelines and create some templates to streamline the aggregation process. So DOER has been actively engaged in that and really grateful that the department is taking that initiative up.
Wonderful. Thank you, Marian. And then I think we'll go to the participants list with hands raised with a question from Michael Traveling. And I think, Susanna, I'm no longer co-host. If you could mute and unmute the people in the participants list. Thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting this. I really appreciate the transparency and the update on many of these initiatives. My name is Michael Travellini, Winchester, Massachusetts. I work for a local home builder. I wanted to ask a question. Last summer, MIT and Wentworth released a study on the cost impact to housing that the stretch code and specialized opt-in code will have, and what they found was that updates to stretch code will have a cost impact on all types of housing in the tens of thousands of dollars, and that the passive house requirement under the specialized opt-in code for multifamily buildings over 12,000 square feet may have a really substantial six-figure cost impact. Given that we're in the midst of a housing crisis, what is DOER doing to ensure that the updates to the energy code aren't exacerbating the affordable housing crisis? Thank you so much.
Thanks, Michael, for the question. As you can imagine, and hopefully what you've heard today, is that DOER is spending a significant amount of our time making sure that we can decarbonize all of our buildings so that we have a healthier future, so that our residents have healthier places to live, and so that residents also have lower energy costs. And that translates also into less impact on our grid, which turns to even lesser or lower energy costs. So we are looking at building codes as part of a very large network of solutions. It is directly connected to our electric grid. It's connected to affordability of month-to-month bills for our residents. And it's directly related to all of our clean and energy and climate goals. The report that you referenced failed to include, and they have noted this, failed to include the generous support through Mass Save that we have created here in Massachusetts, the terrific tax credits that are available for conducting all of these measures, and that when we have done our analysis and when others have done this analysis, it shows that these codes are cost competitive. But that doesn't change the fact that the cost to build right now is high. Interest rates are up, so borrowing money is high, as you know. Supply chain is much higher costs. So there's a lot challenging the housing crisis. But we think about, and we're working with our colleagues at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, with our colleagues at the new Climate Bank, to make sure that we're braiding together all of our programming to help build new buildings that do not put a stress on our electric grid and don't cause additional upgrades or renovations in the future as we electrify our heating sector. And we're also working together to make sure that we can turn to existing buildings and make changes there. One thing we really do think about is, and I take your perspective that you're a developer and you work with other developers, just trying to get things built and trying to make your business work. I appreciate that. We do consider that with, again, the many grant programs that we've been running and Mass Save and so on. But we also think about who lives in those buildings and what their costs are. And we want to make sure that we are constructing buildings in a way that reduces or, as our engineering team says, crushes the electric load so that costs are reduced over time. This is significant from our perspective in terms of the electric grid, of course, because the more we electrify the heating sector and our transportation sector, the more we have to think about what poles and wires, substations, feeders we need. And if we can crush heating load and electric load in new buildings, then we're going to save everyone time, money, and headaches with respect to our grid. So we're looking at everything. We are trying to develop programs that help everyone, but we believe that at this point, this is an all-in solution that we all need to work on. And we want to continue having these discussions and making sure that we're advancing these programs in a way that gets buildings built in a healthy way, that renovates buildings, so on and so forth. So we're working on it, and the door is open to continue talking more.
All right, I'm going to move to the Q&A box. I see a couple of questions about the Home Energy Rebates Program from the Department of Energy, also known as HER and HERE. Joanne, can you speak a little bit about our HER and HERE timeline and when homeowners may be able to receive those rebates?
I certainly can, Susanna. DOER is going to be submitting our application in April. at that point, it goes to the Department of Energy for their review and then subsequent approval and then funding. So it really, once it's out of DOER, it goes to the federal government, and then we're subject to when they would fund. But I think what's more important is to understand the program that we're proposing, and you'll have an opportunity to provide feedback on that on March 18th. One of the requirements set by DOE was that the money was used to support low and moderate income customers' adoption of clean energy technology. And so we looked to create a program that would leverage existing resources and fill in where there were gaps needed to support low and moderate income customers. So for her, we will be supporting municipal light plants, work in their for their customers or for their residents adoption of decarbonization measures. And then for the HERE, which is what everyone kind of knows about as the rebate program, will be used to leverage Mass Save's work in the low and moderate income space in order to maximize opportunities, primarily for moderate income customers, to fully decarbonize their homes and spaces. So it is not, and I think that there's some misunderstanding, and just wanted to clarify, our current program design is not a rebate where you would submit an application and get a rebate for a measure that you adopt. It will be tied with and implemented through existing programs. And with that, I would encourage anyone who can participate in Mass Save, which is currently up, running, and offering tremendous incentives on heat pumps, weatherization, and other decarbonization for anybody who is a utility ratepayer in the Commonwealth. And depending on your income levels, the assistance and support through Mass Save is either at 100% or significantly more than what would be available like in a straight rebate program under here. So I hope I answered pretty much everyone's question in the chat box, but if not, join our seminar, our public input session on March 18th, and we will be able to answer anything further. Thanks.
I'll just add, if you can, if this is available to you, do not sleep on Mass Save. Get an audit and then follow through with measures. There's a lot of help out there, and it's a terrific program. The information was just released this week. Over 28,000 homes had heat pumps installed last year. I mean, we just are doing excellent, and the residents of the Commonwealth are really opening up to this technology, and they are making it happen through Mass Save. So don't wait. Go to Mass Save and do what you can. And I think there were some questions in the chat about if MLPs participate in Mass Save. They don't, because they don't pay into the program, nor are they program administrators. But we are working with the MLPs through their umbrella organizations to develop programming through the HER and HERE program and other funding sources that we have applied for at DOE. So we want to take the success of our energy efficiency and weatherization and decarbonization programs into the MLPs who are really open to it and looking for it and looking for help in planning and funding it. So hopefully we will see some great things start to tick up in the MLPs later this year.
Great. All right, now I'm going to move to someone who has their hand raised. And just a quick time check, we're at 12:51, so we probably just have time for a few more questions before we have to wrap up. William Messner, I'm going to allow you to speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. My name is William Messner. I'm a resident of Amesbury, Massachusetts. I'm a member of the Town Energy Committee. My question revolves around security as we move to, or say resilience as we move to electrifying our nation, heating, and transportation, but particularly heating. If we adopt heat pumps, what happens when the power fails? How are we going to provide heat to people who do not have power? Will there be backup generators? It's a very serious problem because I have a heat pump in my house, but I also have a generator which is natural gas powered. That's my question.
Hey, Matt, happy to take that question, Commissioner, unless you want to. Wonderful. So I will say that resilience as a policy and energy security in times past has maybe been presented as like maybe a niche thing, you know, and a specialized group of people work on it. I just don't see that as the path forward on policy. Resiliency is being integrated into every aspect of the clean energy transition. And as I mentioned on our slide, we see that it's this key turning point that as we're investing in clean energy technologies and clean energy processes, that resilience is on the forefront of what we are evaluating for. So to answer your question, there are two real forms of energy security and resiliency when it comes to a home. One would be sort of an active resiliency, right? So that would be programs around microgrids, energy storage. So that would allow for your home to have electricity in the event of an outage. There's a lot of funding for these types of programs in the new DOE IJA bill. And part of that funding is actually going for us in Massachusetts to Mass CEC. And they'll be running a municipal program providing resiliency services to areas that could provide sort of community resilience in the event of an outage. Additionally, I would also highlight that there is sort of a passive resiliency associated with the energy code. So a passive house can actually maintain its heat for an extended period of time without electricity. And also when we think about climate in 2050 in a warming world, passive house can also provide passive cooling. So if there is a growing reliance on air conditioning during extreme heat waves, the more passive house built dwellings we have, the more insulated and weatherized buildings we have, the actual greater energy security and resilience we'll have. And then there's the additional aspect, which I'll call energy security, which is, of course, trying to reduce the number of outages that occur in the first place and then increase our ability to respond to an outage as quickly as possible. And that's where you sort of see our majority of our work on the energy security plan and integrating with our regional partners, because it is very unlikely that an energy emergency or an energy event would occur exclusively in Massachusetts. And it's definitely not true that the response would only be for Massachusetts. So that is where we see a lot of our regional coordination, and DOER is heavily involved in that, with our utility partners, our transmission, ISO New England partners, and the Department of Public Utilities.
Thank you for that answer. I think it partly answers my question. Perhaps I'll follow up with you if I may.
Sure.
One-on-one. How do I get a hold of your email?
I think it's on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's it. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, at 12:56, I'm going to call on our last person, Secretary Tepper. I'm going to allow you to speak.
Hi. Is there any
Hello.
way I can be shown too, or no?
I don't know.
All right.
I think we can promote you to panelist, Secretary. Do that. Oop, did we lose
We
her?
lose her?
Hi. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to quickly thank the DOER team for this really helpful forum today. I have been listening to it while I'm eating my lunch, and really have enjoyed hearing the questions. And this is the kind of thing that we're trying to encourage throughout the Secretariat, to make sure that we are transparent and we include the community in what we're doing all year. So just wanted to thank everyone. It was really interesting day, and the questions were really good. So keep up the questions, and thanks all. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Secretary. And, thank you for your leadership in pushing us to do more of this kind of work, so that we are community-centered in the work that we do, and that we are implementing and accomplishing. The Secretary has very high goals for us, and we want to make sure that we're reaching them. I will, we've only got a couple of minutes left, so I wanted to pick up on that thread that the Secretary brought up, is that, these questions have been great, and we've really enjoyed engaging with you. And so we want to make sure that you all have the opportunity to submit additional questions. We are going to pull the Q&A and put that together in a document that we can post. It might take us a little bit to clean it up and post it with complete answers, but we're going to work on that. We also are going to work on making sure that these slides are posted, and that we translate them into the 6 languages that were being spoken today. We want to make sure we continue with our language access plan appropriately. So stay tuned. We will post those as well. You can submit additional comments to doer.energy@mass.gov up until March 15th. And then I think you hopefully saw that we're going to look for you to comment a lot this year, and to help us build out programming that works for the Commonwealth. So we look forward to engaging with you throughout the year. We have a big year planned, and we really want to do it in a way that serves the community and advances our clean energy and climate goals. So thank you again so much for attending. To have this many people on a Thursday afternoon was really wonderful. Again, we've really enjoyed ourselves, and we know that we have a lot of questions to answer and a lot of good dialogue to help have with all of you throughout 2024. So thank you. Happy Leap Year Day, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday.